Buenos días, buongiorno a tutti. Welcome to the 2026 Aramco Gran Premio de España de 2026. Sì, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. 1926, sí, Gran Premio Aramco de España, something, 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 something. Okay. Hello everyone. Welcome to the 2026 Aramco Gran Premio de España or Spanish Grand Prix. Um, Joe's on pole. Tap from Jupiter's P2. Ocon is P3. That's all you really need to know, to be honest. The rest of the grid down from P8. Today will be Yilmaz's debut for Racing Point following Alonso's retirement. He's starting P7. And Eric Little Things will make his Red Bull Racing debut after an exceptional AlphaTauri performance with a win and 2 podiums. Well, 3 if you discount Fondaroli's penalty. So we will start with the pre-race procedures, and that will be starting with the intro. Okay, buenos días for those who speak Spanish. Buenos días y bienvenido a el Fórmula 170 Aramco Gran Premio de España 2026. My Spanish is very bad, I know. Let's just start. So here we go. We are here in España with Joe on pole, tap from Jupiter in P2 and Ocon in P3. We all remember what happened yesterday in Monaco with tap from Jupiter and Ocon not scoring in that race. However, today we will possibly see the tides turning in favor of the Mercedes man, who will be looking to extend his championship advantage over Joe, which is 51 points right now, and it's 73 points to P3. I'm doing the Fabrizio Romano voice for the football fans there. There's Rafa Gaetano, P16 AlphaTauri, you can see there. Okay, here we go. I need to stop doing that, honestly. I really need to stop doing that. Okay, I'm unpaused. Right. As we wait for the lights to come out, will it be go in Montmello? It's lights out and away we go. First, we ride on here on board with Joe, who gets quite the start, but tap is catching as we have Yilmaz go into P3 from P7 on the grid. Ocon has dropped down to P4 as we go into turn 1. Will we see some action from Tapper and Jupiter to go into the lead of the Mexican Grand Prix? You can see the rattle behind of Tenabadal fighting in P5 to displace Ocon further in the championship. Now, what will happen here? We see Yilmaz go into P2 in the Racing Point with Tenabado now fighting in P3 on the podium. Tevron Jupiter has now dropped down from P2 all the way down to P4, as well as Ocon dropping down through the order, vulnerable to Jerkson as we go onto one of the corners, which will go into the DRS straight. There's no DRS on the first lap, which means that Ocon is dropping down all by his own. The Mercedes seems very slow going into these corners. Jerkson is already up to P5. As we go on to the DRS straight, it seems as though Ocon will not have the advantage. Dirksen shoots up into P4 with Joe being threatened by Fondaroli. Fondaroli does make the move onto Ocon. Tenabado now they are going wheel to wheel. They bounce wheels. Dirksen manages to just get ahead of the Renault of Tenabado, who started P4, is now in P5. Ocon goes for the move. Through goes Ocon into P4, displacing everyone here, but Tenabadol is looking to come back and reclaim that P4 start, and he does. It seems as though he will, but Ocon just manages to steal ahead. These two are separated by nothing going into the corner. Ocon will have the inside line and the position. But no, Tenabado says he will go round the outside looking for a move on the Mercedes man. Meanwhile, in front, Joe will set the fastest lap. But it seems as though Tenabado will be looking to go for the switchback on the Mercedes man, who is now on the hunt for P3 back from Joe. But Tenabado will shoot into the inside line and take P4 back from Ocon, who's now dropping down the order. It seems as though Dirksen also manages to get past, meaning that Ocon is starting to lag behind. Will he be susceptible from the Ferrari behind? Yes, he will. Ocon drops down to P7. Onto the DRS straight now. DRS is activated here. Ocon shoots past the Ferrari. Will he make it past Tenabado, who is fighting with Joshua Dirksen, who is now managing P4, but he will be displaced by these two are separated. These two in front of him are separated by nothing. Ocon will have the greater traction and more inside line coverage, meaning that he will now go onto the DRS straight. He go. Dirksen will not have the DRS, and so will be at advantage. Joe sets the fastest lap with Yilmaz in P2. And Tenabado is now just placed down all the way into P6. Will Ocon be able to make the move on Dirksen going into turn 1? He pulls to the side, and he nearly hits him. But we have the switch back. Just give me a moment. Okay, I'm back. Ocon manages to get past Joshua Dirksen, but will it be for long? Will he be able to sustain this? Dirksen will have the inside line, the greater traction, and they bang wheels there as Ocon tries to make the move, as Yilmaz has been displaced by Tafron Jupiter, who is now looking for the move on Joe for the race win. Ocon manages to keep on staying past, but this is amazing racing you're finding here. They're going 3 wide into the corner. Ocon is now being displaced back into P6. With the Ferrari now catching them, making this a 4-way battle, going on to the DRS. Who will be at the disadvantage? Tenabadol is at the disadvantage, as Fondaroli as well is being brought in. This looks like penalty heaven for here. Ocon is now into P7, as Joe is now managing to put himself into P6 there, sorry. But Ocon is following closely. Dirksen in front. So they're all looking to make moves as the gap between Joe and Tap from Jupiter is mitigating, slowly reducing. However, further back, you have the greatest battle ever. But will Tap from Jupiter be able to make a move on Joe? And he does. Going into the corner here, he will be able to make the move on Joe, meaning that he has the greater speed and the greater traction, and thus will be able to make the move. There's been a 5-second penalty for Eric Littlethings on his Red Bull debut for a collision with Pan and Albano. The former teammates coming to blows again. Ocon's now being displaced from P3 all the way down to P8. Onto the DRS straight we go. Joe will have the greater traction, but Tefra Jupiter does not park it on the racing line. He will have to go through the outside, and Joe manages to retake P1 away from, but Tep will have the inside line as well coming into the straight, but all this means that he will not have the DRS advantage going onto the main straight, meaning that Joe will quite easily be able to pass him. He even makes the move before the DRS straight, the two wheel-to-wheel action. Who will have their rear wing open? It is Joe who will have his rear wing open and will be able to pass him on the straight. Will this mean that Yilmaz is right behind him? Right behind him, meaning that we will have a 3-horse race for the podium. There's been a 5-second penalty to come for a collision with Aaron Seno. Meanwhile, here it seems as though the battle has calmed down. Will Eric Littlethings, a previous race winner, go for the lunge on Ocon? And yes, he does, going into turn 1, but Ocon will have the greater inside line. But all this means that on his Red Bull debut, Eric Littleface will now go up into P7 as Tanabado manages to get past Joe there, this, coming onto this straight here. It is 1 second that all that separates this top three. Joe is now at the disadvantage here. Will he go defensive or will he be powerless to defend against a catching Alfa Romeo? The Alfa Romeo is helpless to do anything here, and so will stay behind. Ocon, who's now has to drive a very big recovery drive, is now languishing in P6 with Dirksen in P4. So behind, but it seems as though these two have managed to pull out quite a gap here, which means that Ocon will now have to extract the pace here in P6. Teflon Jupiter goes for the move going into turn 1 to displace Joe from P1. You can just see these two separated by nearly nothing as Yilmaz on his debut for Racing Point has managed to go from P7 to P3. He had a miraculous race start. Meanwhile, he is looking possibly to become our 6th different race winner in 6 races. Will he take P1 for Racing Point at the first advantage, or will he be happy with a debut podium? As we go on to the DRS straight here, will Teflon Jupiter park it on the racing line, or will he be defenseless as he was a lap ago? This is simply the yo-yo racing that you see in 2026 here. One moment one car will have the advantage, the other moment the other car has the advantage, going wheel to wheel, banging wheels. Now we go on to the DRS lane. Onto the DRS straight. Neither car will come into the pits as the pit stop begins to open as we go here. He's simply defenseless and Joe spins! Joe has had a collision with Teflon Jupiter and they both spun out. All this means that Yilmaz, who's also been caught in the crossfire, all this means that the back of the pack will have enough time to catch up to them, and Yilmaz also gets a 5-second penalty, meaning that Teflon Jupiter is effectively in the lead of the race, bringing the grid closer together. Tanner Bardot is looking for a move onto the racing board. He will have the inside line. No, he does not, but Yilmaz manages to just barely stay in front. What was that, man? That could have really ended badly. Like, really ended badly, man. Oh, man. I was scared there for a moment. So now, Joe, on his tires, will have to extract the pace of his entire life, man, right there. VQNLM and Aaron Seno come into the pits to change their tires. Going on to the DRS straight, Teflon Jupiter easily displaced right there, but will he be displaced again by Tanabado, who will now shoot into P3? He will have the inside line, but one thing about Teflon Jupiter, he does not let anyone come back from him. Now going on to the end, Tanabado is he's not firmly into the lead of the race. Here with Yildiz onto the DRS straight as Joe will peel into the pits to change his tires, presumably for the hard tire, meaning that Yilmaz is now in P1, our net race leader. Will he manage to keep away from our most recent race winner? Ocon is now in his P3 spot where he started. Joe will pit for the hard tire, I presume, yes, and Teflon Jupiter will also pit for the hard tire, meaning that this entire trajectory of the race has been blown wide open. These three here, we know them for having excellent, very clean racing this entire Grand Prix. Meanwhile, Yilmaz will have to extract 5 seconds out of Tanabado for him to even think of a race win from P7, though. I think he'll just be happy with the podium in it. 5-second penalty for Edward while trying to make a move on Rafael Cayetano. 4 active penalties so far, and you know the rules. You know them rules. Oh, let me fix the logo in the top there. Actually, Edward is driving quite the race, eh? From non-qualifying to P10. Well, we are seeing a different race here as we go on to the DRS straight. Yilmaz is not yet able to... Yilmaz has extracted a 5-second penalty, but all these three here come into the pits. Does Yilmaz come into the pits? No, he does not. He chooses to stay out as Joe, languishing in P17, has set the fastest sector one time. One crucial thing is that Tap managed to come out ahead of Joe. So as the 4 pit, including Harper Latta here, he also pits, meaning that our top 3 is as follows: Yilmaz, Eric Littlethings on his Red Bull debut, and Parland Albano. Well, the racing's been a year. Oh, 5-second penalty for Eric HTX4 colliding with Tanner Bardot. The Frenchman obviously not very happy about the traffic that he has to deal with. Now he has to catch Tap from Jupiter on his way back to the front. Meanwhile, Ocon just is also having to deal with significant traffic. But an important thing is that Joe is behind is behind Tanner Bardot and Tap from Jupiter, as a matter of fact. Now, will our race leader Yilmaz come into the pits this lap, or will he stay out on his medium tires, susceptible to the likes of Eric Littlethings, who also has a 5-second penalty, might I add? Yes, he does. He stays out. What does he do on his Red Bull debut? Will Red Bull call him into the pits? No, they don't. They choose for him to stay out. Dirksen now in front of Ocon, battling with Anthony for position. What is the Alfa Romeo to do here? He's all but helpless when dealing with the Mercedes here. The Mercedes just shoots past him, and into P12 he goes. Onto the DRS straight. Ocon will have his rear wing firmly closed, while Dirksen, as they pass Juan Carrero into the pit lane, meaning that Joel now is also ready to threaten the McLaren, while he's also being threatened by the Ferrari. Where's Joe and all this? Joe has managed to claw his way back to P8, battling with Tipcom, who has a penalty for position. He will think of a move down the inside. He thought of a move around the outside, but he chooses to stay away, meaning that our net top 3 right now is Tap from Jupiter, Tenabardo, and Joe. However, we must not forget about Yilmaz here, who has chosen to stay out on the medium tire. Possibly, will he pit this lap here, it seems? Yes, he will. And so will Eric Littlethings also pit this lap. Yes, he does, on his Red Bull debut. The top 2 are both on their debuts this season, meaning that Paul Albano will now shoot into the lead of the race of the Spanish Grand Prix on lap 10 of 33. Here you have Rafa Caetano, who just barely nipped Ocon's Mercedes, as we have very separate battles going on here. So very crucially, Yilmaz does come out ahead of Eric Littlethings as he rejoins the track with the freshest tires on the racetrack. So yes, it is firmly quite still a battle here. Tipcom just being passed there by Ocon, meaning that the pack all the way from P3 down to P7 are all now being woven together. So this is the kind of racing that you want to see here in Formula 170, where anything is possible and everything is possible. And Anthony he's in the middle of the Red Bull and the Racing Point. Yep. Now here, what will happen here? What will Tanner do here? He has the fresher tires. And his teammate seems to be slowing down the of Tap from Jupiter. So what will happen here, coming onto the DRS straight as Leo Fondaroli pits? They will go side by side, and it is for a lead of the race and the change of lead. Tanner will now lead us through this Spanish Grand Prix. Will the Frenchman go 2 for 2 races, as they are now separated by nearly nothing here? Ocon is battling with Dirksen for P4 for the charge, or Joe for possibly the race victory, as Tenabardo seemingly with the better strategy today as compared to what happened in Monaco. With the better strategy, he will be able to contend for this race win. Joe, it seems as though he will get a podium here, but I'm seeing that might be unlikely here. So Tenabardo now firmly into the lead of the race. We will now come on to But Tap from Jupiter is gaining. He is gaining, 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 gaining. We saw how we saw how a collision onto the main straight managed to ruin Tap from Jupiter's race winning advantage here. But will he be able to go onto the DRS straight and shoot for something big? We go here. This is where he collided with Joe. Will he go for a move around the outside into turn one? He does, and that is for the change of the lead of the race once again. But will Tanabado be able to contend again for the race lead? It seems as though he's begun to drop back a bit. But we all know that on the DRS straight, on the straight line, that Renault is mighty powerful. Yilmaz now clawed his way back from P10 into P6. He's only 3 seconds behind Joshua Dirksen. Will he be able to challenge for P3 again? It'll be a net Turk versus Turk? We will see here in this thrilling race around Barcelona. Gone on to the DRS straight. Crucially, Tanner is without DRS here, meaning that Tap from Jupiter is now into the lead of this race, and quite handily, as he's been able to dismay Tanner Bardot for quite some time now, as the gap seems to ever be increasing. But as we go into the DRS detection zone, will he be able to reduce the gap? And no, he doesn't, meaning that going onto the main straight, he will crucially. Why is his rear wing? Oh no, his rear wing is closed. So crucially, his rear wing will be firmly closed here, meaning that Tap from Jupiter, even though he is on the older tire, might still be able to take this win. And Ocon seems to have disappeared from view of, okay, they're still within 1 second of each other, but I doubt that anything like that will come to fruition, as it seems ever so likely that Tanabato will look for a move into this corner here. Will he make a dive bomb move, or will he choose to go for the DRS? All of this is allowing Joe to slowly but surely catch up to the Frenchman and the Finishman. Onto the DRS straight we go. Crucially, just drops behind that 1 second mark, while Tap is running low on battery. Tana just has slightly more battery power than the person in front of him. However, Tap from Jupiter has managed to sneak up from P2 into P1. Yeah. That's the race, guys. Lap 15. Yeah, we're on lap 15 now of 33. Going into turn 1 with Tana Bardo. He will have the greater amount of battery, considering as though he did not spend it. Will he be able to just nip Tap from Jupiter onto the DRS to just keep him there in view, or will Tap from Jupiter be able to run away with the win today in Montmeló in Barcelona? I can tell you that it's not a very sunny day over here in Spain, but we are seeing some great racing here. Past the DRS detection zone, Tanabado will have the DRS going onto the straight. His rear wing open. Will he look for a move into here, or will he stay calm as usual and stay behind? Yes, he will. He will stay behind the Alfa Romeo, but however, he is gaining. Just there in the background, you could see that was Joe. As we go on to the main straight again, will Tanabado look for a move, or will he suffer the same fate as Joe did when trying to overtake Tap onto the DRS straight we go? He's too far behind to think for a move. However, going on to the next DRS zone, which will be in a sector or two, he will definitely have the pace, the gap, the ability to overtake him for the lead of the race. Now, Tap from Jupiter will have to pull out some defensive moves here, as he is gaining. He's gaining. Will he make the move even before we reach here? And yes, he does, with a slight tap of the wheels. Tap from Jupiter has been displaced from P1 and will now have to settle for P2, or will he come back with a dive bomb move into the corner? And yes, he does, with the great attraction on the outside line, on the inside line, at the disadvantage there. All this is playing into Joe's favor. He's gaining. But crucially, Tanabado will have the DRS going onto the straight, as you can just see there. But even through all that, he is hopeless to displace Tap from Jupiter from P1. Tap with amazing pace today in the Alfa Romeo. All of this has allowed the likes of Yilmaz, who got past Dirksen, and the likes of Ocon, the likes of Joe, to now come into discussion for this race. And as we all know, Yilmaz the has the freshest tires of the top five so far. And so, but the question here is at the front: will he go for a move? Yes, he will. He will take the inside line going into lap 17 on to turn 1 and 2 going into turn 3 now. He will now he will now be able to build the gap that he wants. He will now be able to control the pace. But Tap will look at that and say, no, no, I don't want that. I want the win today. And he's gaining, he's gaining. All of this means that in about a lap or two, Joe will now enter this discussion. Possibly as well to threaten for the race win. As you can see here, the timing sheet is wiped clean of all its penalties, all meaning that going on to this DRS straight, will Tap from Jupiter have the greater amount of battery and the greater traction? No, he will not. He will just dip behind there, all of this allowing Joe to now start to pick up the pace and think about possible moves. He is on the same lap old tires as Tap. Going on to the DRS straight, it seems as though will Tanabado, with the DRS disadvantage, with the ERS disadvantage, will he be helpless to stop Tap from Jupiter's advances as we go on to the DRS straight? Will they bang wheels? He's gaining, he's thinking for a move. He parks it on the racing lap, but he's helpless to defend from Tap from Jupiter, who goes on to the lead of the race again into turn 1, into turn 2, into turn 3 again. The top four are separated by only 2 seconds. Only 2 seconds separating this top three as through goes Ocon into P3, displacing Joe, the pole man, into P4. The top four are now separated by nearly nothing. Joe will think for a move down the inside line and will take P3 back. Meanwhile, in the front, will Tanabardo, with the DRS advantage, be able to challenge for the lead of the race again? Going on to the DRS straight, he goes past and shoots past the Alfa Romeo. But now, will Joe from further behind be able to threaten Tap onto the main straight? Will this be absolute carnage as you've seen in previous races before? Will fresher tires demote older tires? Is this a question of tires, or is this a question of raw pace, of raw extraction? Will the Alfa Romeo be helpless to Joe's advances? It does not seem so as we go on to the DRS straight. 7 tenths behind. There's Joe just barely in the background. But Tap from Jupiter, as usual, gaining. But this time he hasn't gained enough. This time he's too far back for a move. This time, never mind that he will stay behind for a move, but he was thinking of it. Ocon now goes into P3 after this DRS straight. So it is clear that those with the fresher tires clearly have the better pace, clearly have raw pace, and as I say, that Tap from Jupiter will go into the race lead again. But crucially, all this means that Tanabado will have the DRS going into the next straight. But as I say that again, the lead keeps switching back and forth. There's Ocon now appearing into view with Joe right behind him. These three are all within DRS of each other. These four, are all within DRS of each other, as Yilmaz is now behind Joe. Onto the DRS straight we go. DRS wing flaps open for the next three people. Tanabado now into the lead of the race once again from Tap from Jupiter. But this time Ocon is now looking for something. Ocon will now try to do something here. Tanabado will be at the disadvantage going into the DRS straight, but will Ocon be able to think of a move going into this same DRS straight? The top three are separated by less than a second. We're going on to the DRS straight now. Will he go for a move? Yes, he will. They lightly clip wheels a bit, but Tap from Jupiter manages to go into P1, into the lead of the race. As we go on to lap 23, Joe will pit his 11-lap-old tires for a new set of compounds. Likely, this means that I think he will go pit again for soft tires. Tanabado once again into the lead of the race. Can Ocon do something? Can Ocon threaten this party? It's been back and forth. The Finnish man versus the Frenchman. But will there be a Brit to stop this? Or Yilmaz now goes past Joe into P4. Separated by nearly nothing. Ocon will try to look to displace Tap from here. He's right behind him, going onto the DRS straight. They lock wheels. This allows Tenabado to just sneak past out of view. Ocon will have the disadvantage. He will have the outside line as he's just been outbraked by Tap from Jupiter for P2. But will this last? Going on to the DRS straight. It looks as though these two keep banging wheels. These two former world champions keep banging wheels. Tap, our most recent... Oh no, Prime is our recent champion, sorry. Ocon now just slots in behind. You can just see there in the background, Yilmaz might look to do something. Ocon will go side by side with him, and into P2 he goes, displacing Tap from Jupiter, whose tires, I believe, are now starting to wear out, meaning that he is now vulnerable to Yilmaz right here. But Yilmaz is vulnerable to Joe. These two keep swapping positions. This race has been a test of how good are you at managing DRS, how good are you at making moves like this, defending the inside line, going for the move. But he will be at the disadvantage here as as Dirksen, Joe's former teammate, will have the inside line and the greater traction here going on to here. But Yilmaz with the greater battery, he will spend his battery to now go into P4. Will he be able to threaten Tap from Jupiter right here, who now seems helpless in the face of a Mercedes and a Renault? It might be a Renault 1, Mercedes 2, but will it be a Racing Point 3 or an Alfa Romeo 3? Dirksen looking to spoil all of this here and say, no, I want my McLaren there in P3. You can just see there Eric Little Things fight Eric Little Things right there. And I'm actually very happy today because there have been little to no back marker issues, which I'm very happy for. Just as a side note, as Tenabado, our race leader, will come into the pits, so will Tap from Jupiter, meaning that into the lead of the race goes Ocon for the first time, and Eric Little Things will now go into P2. He's fighting with the Racing Point of Yilmaz, who's been having, I have to say, he will, podium or not, he'll have an exceptional race here. The man on his Red Bull debut will look to say it will be on a podium, but however, he will not have to keep that podium for long, because the behind him are those with fresher tires or those on the fresher compound. Joe manages to just get past Tenabado, and Tenabado pits ahead of Tap from Jupiter. Crucially, all of this means that Tap will be at the disadvantage. Yilmaz just seems to be peeling back. Harpaletta sets the fastest sector 3 time. You can just see that there's the lapped Williams of Eric HTX, I believe. Yep. He's trying to do something. He's trying to lap himself, I believe. So, good racing, guys. Don't crash into each other. Okay, yeah. I think they're keeping their distance, very respectful. Ocon now will come into the pits. Now, the question will be, will he come out ahead or behind Tenabado? The first Renault of Leo Fondarodi will go through, but Tenabado is on the main straight. It seems as though he will come. He's coming. And yes, crucially, Ocon will now drop behind Tap from Jupiter as well. Is he susceptible to Joe from behind? Yes, he is. Joe will pass him there. Or does he? No, he doesn't. Okay. As Dirksen on the fresher tires is actually looking to pass him. So now, Joe, it's now a Red Bull 1-2 with Eric Little Things being told to pick up the pace to now allow for Joe to race in clean air. Dirksen now has caught up to Ocon, even though directly in for Ocon is the man with the softer tires all the way ahead of him. Onto lap 23 of 33 with 10 laps to go. The race winner is still very clearly undecided. It could be anyone. The two Red Bulls now coming to blows. Joe will go into the lead of the race, but will he hit his teammate? No, he doesn't. He stays behind. His teammate thinks of a move, but he will now go into the pits to change his tires. Eric Little Things on his Red Bull debut. So does Yilmaz also go into the pits, I believe. Yes. So who will come out of who? Will Yilmaz be able to jump Eric Little Things into the pits? Let us see here. Yilmaz will now come into the pits to change his tires, and crucially, no. Eric Little Things will come out ahead of Yilmaz. Okay. Now Tenabado has gone ahead of his teammate Fondra, who tried to slow down the Alfa Romeo off tap from Jupiter. Truthfully, he didn't, but it is what it is. C'est la vie, as we say in French. Joe now with 6 seconds to a P2, but as we know in Monoposto, time gained is merely a mortal question. So now with tap on the back foot, will he had some very, very, very serious good pace here. Will he be able to maintain that pace here, or will he fall to the wheels of the Renault? You can just see behind Fonda Roli there is the Mercedes, which I think Fonda is going to pit now, I believe. Going on to the main straight, 8 seconds to the leader, but nothing will separate these two going on to the main straight. Crucially, a backmarker has allowed Tenabardil to maintain a DRS, but it will tap go for a move into turn 1. There's a lot of chaos there, but just barely by the skin of his teeth, Tenabardil manages to psych past all of that. Ocon will now go into P4, passing him on track, but will he go? Crucially, will tap from Jupiter go for a move. He has the better traction. He has the inside line. He will outbrake Tanabajo going into this sort of hairpin now. But will Tanabajo come back for a move? Yes, he will. He will have the inside line, meaning that for the next 2 or so corners, tap from Jupiter will be on the outside line. However, into this corner, he will have the inside line. But Tana crucially gets his car directly in front of everyone there and will create more than a second gap. All this means that Ocon right behind there, stuck behind back markers, trying to extract some sort of pace here, will crucially now fall within 1 second of tap from Jupiter. I think he's cleared the Williams there. Yes, he has. He will now, I think, directly in front of him is Tap's teammate, Anthony. Now going on to this main straight, tap from Jupiter is perilously behind. As Leo Fondaroli will now come into the pits. So all of this fighting is now played directly into the Red Bull of Joe's favor here in Montmeló, in Barcelona. So it seems as though Yilmaz is now out of contention for the win. However, it was fun to dream. Yep, yes indeed. Now Ocon is within a second of tap from Jupiter, which all of this will mean that going onto the DRS straight, the only one without DRS will be Tanabardo. But will he be susceptible to tap from Jupiter's advances? No, he won't. But will Ocon be able to extract something out of there as he gets closer and closer and perilously closer to tap from Jupiter? We remember the move that he made going into the last corner, going onto the DRS straight. Will he be able to replicate that, or will Tap be able to replicate one of his all-time classics, going for a move onto the DRS straight, going for a move on to Tanabardo? As Ocon now, they are going too wide. Ocon with the greater traction. Will they all collide as they go 3 wide? No, he won't. And through goes Ocon into P2 of this race, as Tanabardona will now drop to P4, but tap from Jupiter, yeah, he will drop to P4. He briefly went up to P3, but tap from Jupiter managed just by the skin of his teeth to have the greater traction. But will Tanabardo think for a move out around the inside? He will have the inside line, but tap from Jupiter will park it right there onto the racing line, meaning that Tanabardo's next opportunity will be onto the DRS straight. Ocon will now, with the fresher tires, will be able to go 1 second ahead of the people behind, meaning that he will be able to threaten for the race win. Meanwhile, onto this DRS straight we go. Is tap from Jupiter's front wing open? No, it is closed, meaning that he's now exited the DRS range. So now all this means that Ocon will now look forward and try to challenge Joe for the race lead. He's on 3-lap older tires, meaning will Joe's fairly decent race be spoiled by the Mercedes? Ocon's now dropped back a bit, but no, he's still without DRS. Yeah, he's about 2 seconds in front, innit? But will Tanabardo look to complete the podium here? Will he go for a dive bomb move here, going into turn 1? Left, right, now going right here. Tanabardo thinking for a move. calculating a move, executing the move. The move ends horribly with a bit of contact, but Tap from Jupiter's car manages to just keep it on track, and he will have the inside line going into the next corner. Will he, meaning that Tenabado's next opportunity will be onto the DRS, going into sector 3. DRS swing now opens. He's gaining. But will it be enough for a move? Calculating the move the second time around. Tap from Jupiter. His car, they bang wheels, but Tanabadil crucially manages to keep his car in front in all the right positions to avoid a penalty. And now will go ahead of Tap from Jupiter, displacing him onto P4. Now is Ocon, but he will have the DRS here. But Tanabado is now parking it on the racing line, preventing a move. But thank you very much, says Tap. He will now receive the same thing as that he did to Tap here, just a light punch of the wheels. But Tanabado will go for another move, so it will all come down to the last lap this battle here. But is Ocon seemingly catching? There's been a 5-second penalty for Eric Littlethings for colliding with Joshua Dirksen on his Red Bull debut. This is not the debut that he wanted. However, the lowest he can possibly finish is P7. As Yeomans is now catching up to this pack, will he finish on his debut? Will he finish ahead of himself? Onto the DRS straight we go. Tanabado now helpless. His pace seems to now be disappearing as Tap's pace seemed to disappear as we come to the closing stages of this race. Joe will now come into the pit, presumably for soft tires, as Ocon will now go into the lead of the race. What will happen to Tap? Tap will go into P2, as Tanabadol as well will also pit to go into P3. So meaning that there is now a realistic chance of Yilmaz standing on the podium in his first race. Is now 5 seconds from Tap from Jupiter to Ocon. Will Ocon be able to sustain his tires as they are or younger than Tap from Jupiter's tires, or will Tap's relentless pace be the reason Mercedes will not stand on the top step today? Will that be the reason that we will not hear the British anthem today? Will that be the reason for Mercedes' downfall today at the hands of Alfa Romeo Sauber? I doubt. I never want to jinx anything, but here we go. Eric Littlethings. Okay, Yilmaz right now is P3. I will give you that. But will Joe be able to extract immense pace here and take the race lead on the last lap? Something that we saw happen to him in Malaysia, where Ocon seemed to have pitted on the previous lap for the soft tire with around 3 laps ago, but managed to extract the best of raw paces on at the final moment. Yilmaz is now in net P2 at the moment. So will he come out ahead of Leo Fondraroli or behind Leo Fondraroli? Crucially, the Alfa Romeo pit lane is at the end and Tanabado is through on the softer tire. Yilmaz now rightfully on, like for real now, in P2 with the softer tire. So I doubt Yilmaz will pit again. Teammate versus teammate battle we are about to see here. Will Ocon now think of pitting his tires, or will he just let it all work out, as they say? This could be the make or break factor of this race. Looking at where Tap pitted, he's now languishing in P8. Will Ocon now go into the pits to change his tires, giving Yilmaz the net race lead? Ocon will stay out and not pit with 2 laps to go. Tap from Jupiter says the fastest sector 2. However, it does not seem that as though he is doing anything. Will it be teammate versus teammate? Joe will say, thank you very much, I don't want anything from that, and will go into P2. Meanwhile, Yilmaz on his Red Bull debut will Yilmaz on his Racing Point debut is seeming to get P3. Now Joe will have to make up 9 seconds in about a lap and a half in order to get past Ocon, and he is gaining, he is gaining, he is gaining. However, I think Ocon has to deal with the back marker. Yes, he has. So he will be slowed down, but crucially, all this means that going onto the DRS straight, he will have the DRS, where Joe will not have the DRS. So it's one of those races that will definitely come down to the last lap. Joe's now made 5 seconds. Yilmaz is now passed on track. There's been a 5-second penalty for a tap from Jupiter, the man who started P2, for a collision with Leo Fondaroli while trying to pass him. Crucially, now going on to the final lap, Ocon will have his rear wing firmly closed. However, Joe will have 6 seconds to make in a minute and 33 seconds. Oh, I don't know what the fastest lap is, but and not to mention, there's also the threat behind of Yilmaz, but he's 5 seconds back, where Ocon is, I was about to say, Ocon is 4 seconds ahead. So it will be one of those Grand Prix where that will come to the final lap to decide our race winner. But actually, no one will challenge Yilmaz for P3 now on his Red Bull debut. I keep saying Red Bull debut, but on his Racing Point debut, he will not be phased. He will not be phased. The gap now all the way down to 2 seconds going into these corners. Will Joe make a move on the final lap, or will it be another Mercedes win in Spain? The gap is now down to 1 second, but I think going on to the DRS straight, as he will look up and possibly see the checkered flag first, and from P3 on the grid, El Tiburon will shine again in Spain. Ocon wins the Spanish Grand Prix to extend his championship advantage again by another 8 points to 58 points. Joe will finish P2, and for the first time in Formula One, Yilmaz will stand on the podium. Yilmaz will stand on the podium in his debut for Racing Point. He replaced our Knowles, who did very good. But will it be good enough? Will it be as good as a podium for a Racing Point? And on his Red Bull debut, Eric Littlethings will climb up from, I think, P8 or so on the grid, all the way in front to, I think, P5 or 6. So congratulations to him. Him and Red Bull have a long way to go, I can tell you that. Okay. And as we end the third race week of 8 race weeks, you really can't end it without an Ocon win, can you? All right. I'll now go through the race results of the top 10. Ocon, Joe, Yilmaz on his debut for Racing Point. Tanner Bardo, Eric Littlethings, Joshua Dirksen, tap from Jupiter, drops from P2 to P7 after post-race penalties. Fondaroli climbs a place from P9, I assume, into P8. Joel and Albono round out the top 10. From P11, we have Juan Carrero, Lata, Tipcam, Gaetano, Graham, Edward, VQNLM, Senna, Anthony, and HTX. Stay with us now for the British and German anthem going for the podium ceremony.
and what a crucial win that could be for him as he goes for that record-breaking 8th world title.
Right, now time for our conclusion and fourth givings for the championship. Ocon will now see himself at 17 race wins, tying the record with Prime Norris for the most race wins in Formula 170 slash the P1 League, as it has been since the 1st of November last year when we started this whole league idea. Um, so Ocon will now go to 17 wins, tying the all-time record. For the championship, Ocon will extend his lead, and crucially, Joe will now further his grip on P2 in the championship, as I think now Tap from Jupiter will be passed by Tanner Bardol in the championship as the charge towards P3, as the battle for P3, all separated by 12 points. I believe Eric Little Things will come out ahead with Tanabar Dole in P4 and Tavern Jupiter in P5. Really can't be a race weekend without an Ocon win, can it? I'm sorry to Joe for missing out on the race win, but I mean P2 is a P2, can't really be mad about that. Yeah, I believe it was a good race. Honestly, you can see, I think increasing the skill level and the car power of the back markers really helped to decrease the amount of penalties we saw in the race as compared to somewhere like Canada. Um, but it could also be because Spain is a natural track, so there's a lot of runoff area. But yeah, I think I'm just gonna keep it that way. Right, next race weekend will be our classic trifecta: Spa, Austria, and Silverstone. I will see you there, and you know what they say in Italian: Arrivederci.